Welcome to the What's Update. I'm Xander. Let's get started. The NCAA recently announced that it would welcome tens of thousands of basketball fans to Indianapolis and San Antonio for this year's March Madness tournaments, in a move that will generate millions of dollars, but risks further spread of the coronavirus throughout the United States. According to Dr. John Swartzberg, a professor emeritus at the University of California, Berkeley, who has studied infectious diseases and served as an advisor for the Pac-12 conference, bringing people from all over the country to a congregate setting is just nuts. Remember, folks, April showers might bring May flowers, but March Madness brings April sadness. In other sports ball news, John Geddert, a former U.S. Olympic gymnastics coach who led the women's team to the gold medal in the 2012 Olympics, has died by suicide rather than go to jail. Geddert killed himself Thursday after he was charged with sexual assault against children and human trafficking, as well as lying to law enforcement to protect Larry Nassar, another child molester. We don't have a joke for this, but as a public service announcement of sorts, if you're thinking of molesting kids, think of John Geddert and kill yourself. Federal agents in Cincinnati seized millions of dollars worth of cocaine-coated cornflakes, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. After opening the box, CBP officers saw cereal with white powder with flakes coated in a grayish substance, which they tested and found that the shipment had 44 pounds of cocaine-coated cornflakes, with the street value upwards of $2.82 million. According to testing agent Anthony Tiger, they're great! According to a federal government report, the average life expectancy in the United States fell by a full year. Because of COVID, the expected lifespan dropped to 77.8 years, compared to 78.8 years in 2019. Of course, nobody noticed because the last 4 years, especially 2020, felt like 15. The NASA rover Perseverance has successfully landed on Mars. Perseverance is the first NASA mission to Mars in 9 years. The rover is embarking on a mission searching for evidence of past life on the red planet. Back on Earth, Americans watched the footage with hope and subsequently looked around for evidence of their past lives. Unfortunately, all they found was jealousy, realizing that, unlike them, the Perseverance rover got to go outside without wearing a mask. This week, the House passed the Equality Act, which would prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. The legislation was previously passed by the House in 2019, but was blocked by Mitch McConnell's Republican-led Senate. However, the Democrats have control of the Senate and the White House this time around, and the measure will pass if they can get the 60 votes to overcome any Republican filibuster. Now, I think I have an alternative solution. Shut down the Senate men's room. These weirdos are so bunched up about who gets to use what restroom, so let's see how long they last. Anyway, it was recently revealed that senior Pentagon officials held back the promotions of 2 female generals, but not for the reasons you might think. Mark T. Esper, the defense secretary at the time, and General Mark A. Milley, the then chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, fearing that any female generals would simply be discarded and the positions filled with more white men by the Trump administration, decided to wait until after the election, believing that the 2 women would have a better chance in a Biden White House. They were concerned about how Trump would treat female generals, because we already have his recorded position on what he does with female privates.
Oh!
Sad but true. According to a New York Times investigation, at least 6 of the insurrectionists who entered the Capitol during the January 6th attack had previously provided security for Trump ally and costumed criminal Roger Stone. Great. The Penguins' henchmen are storming the Capitol, the Joker got impeached twice, and I'm pretty sure Hydra infiltrated the GOP years ago. Now, while we're on the subject of cartoon villains, since being stripped of her House committee powers, Q Mom, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is using her free time in Congress trying to be the Trumpiest of all Trump supporters. Not only did the Georgia representative vote against the Equality Act, but then Anon put up an anti-transgender sign outside her office, directly across from the office of a Democratic colleague who has a transgender daughter. To paraphrase an old joke my grandmother used to tell, what do you call that useless piece of flesh surrounding an American flag pin? Marjorie Taylor Greene. According to 4 people familiar with his condition, Donald Trump was sicker with COVID-19 in October than White House officials publicly acknowledged at the time. He had extremely depressed blood oxygen levels at one point, and a lung problem associated with pneumonia likely caused by the coronavirus infection. Of course, who needs lungs when you don't have a heart? Now, speaking of the heartless, apparently Ted Cruz's wife was pretty upset about the coverage of her family during the recent extreme winter storm in Texas. Appearing on a podcast, old rat-faced Raphael said that his wife, Heidi Cruz, especially didn't like the unflattering picture taken of her in a bikini while sunning at an exclusive Cancun resort, as millions of Texans, including her dog, Snowflake, were freezing without water and power. When asked as a character witness, even Cruella de Vil was like, "Nah, fam, that ain't right." That ain't right. In our continuing coverage of Dixie Pixie, living legend, and national treasure, Miss Dolly Parton, we present our recurring segment, Dolly Watch.
Yay!
Earlier this year, Tennessee State Representative John Mark Windle proposed erecting a statue of Miss Dolly that would sit on state capitol grounds. His proposal was intended to recognize Miss Parton for all she has contributed to the state. Furthermore, the sculpture would face the historic Ryman Auditorium, a music venue where she has played throughout her career. In the most Dolly way possible, she graciously declined the honor, tweeting, "I'm honored and humbled by their intention, but I have asked the leaders of the state legislature to remove the bill from any and all consideration." She continued, "Given all that's going on in the world, I don't think putting me on a pedestal is appropriate at this time." This should not come as a shock to anyone that follows Miss Parton's illustrious career as a performer and humanitarian. Other honors she has declined over the years include doing a Super Bowl halftime show with Katy Perry, being a judge on RuPaul's Drag Race, and getting the coronavirus vaccine that she funded the research for ahead of everyone else. She also turned down the Presidential Medal of Freedom, our country's highest civilian honor, twice when it was offered to her by the Trump administration. We love you, Miss Dolly. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Yeah!